3 of painting good old Veteran Harmony here for Guild Ball. So I'm going to get the ever trusty comment section back out. There we go. And let's view on watch page, pull up our comments. Okay. All right. So literally have not missed anything on this model. Why do I have, why is the mute off on that? Interesting. Anyway, so here's where the model is right now. The hair is a little bit glossy. We'll fix that with a little bit of a sepia wash, and then we'll get into the some of the main painting here, which is going to be the armor, right? The armor's largely the part that has not been painted yet. But first, let's go ahead and hit that. Let's hit that hair with the sepia wash. Now, I would normally thin the sepia wash, but I actually want a little bit of a slightly darker red to her hair to kind of match the artwork a little more. So I'm just going to go full strength sepia here. Okay, so that's normally what I would do. And the sepia is just going to give us a little more shadow in the hair. Right? And I find that the sepia works great for, particularly for red hair. It just gives it a really, really nice depth to it. All right. Okay. So you can see actually it didn't, right now with it wet, looks like it really didn't do a whole lot to the hair, which is fine. That's kind of what we want. We don't want to have this look too weird. Okay. So next up, we are going to work on the armor, and I do my armor. My mason armor is actually like white. It's a weird kind of white stone that I have a specific formula for. And so I'm going to have to dive in and find the colors that I need. So I'm going to need 3 colors. I'm going to need azure, right? So azure actually forms the undercoat. And then I typically will highlight that with glacial blue. Here's another trick. Finding my glacial blue, because it's been out of the lineup here recently. I haven't been using this particular formula for white. So glacial blue, and the glacier blue really does form up the really does kind of form up the bulk of the base coat for the armor. Okay. All right. So the other thing I'm going to need to do is I am going to actually need to do a top level highlight on the tank top here, and then we're going to wash that whole thing down. So actually, while let's paint the azure in, and then I'll work on the highlight for we'll work on that okay. Sounds like my little guy might be coming back, actually. That's actually pretty fitting right now. It's like just thought he was done for the night, and I still hear him going. So he may still want to come down here. But in the absence of that, let's go ahead and just keep, let's just do our painting. Okay. But this is a real basic paint formula for how I do the armor. You can even airbrush the armor on the bigger models like brick and whatnot. But on this model, there's not a whole lot of that actual mason's armor to deal with. So it's better to just hand paint it all. And then we're going to use a trick to actually get the bright blue rune markings in. I'm just surprised that they sculpted more armor on the model itself, but they didn't change the armor stat for the model. So take that for what it's worth. Okay. The other thing I'm gonna do while we're here is I'm gonna paint the handle in that same sort of medium gray that we did before. Okay. The handle for the sword, because it looks like it's kind of like a cloth. Okay. And let's just make sure I get all the azure. So actually, as the undercoat, this is the one you want to make sure you're covering every surface with, because anything that you don't get with the highlight and the base color should be azure. So all the shadows, everything underneath, it all needs to be this azure color. Okay. All right. So actually, while that's drying, I'm going to paint in some of the base. The base is going to be kind of a gray, a grayish flagstone. So what I'm doing is I'm just taking that charcoal gray that I've kind of turned into more of a wash in the wet palette, and I'm just gonna, because it was airbrushed kind of the right color, I'm just gonna do that. We're gonna do real simple job here on this. And if I need it to be darker, all I do is I just will let this layer dry and add another layer in, right? So you can see that's how the model's looking so far. Okay. The next thing I'm gonna do, hold on. Now, my little guy's starting to lose it up there. Been a tough night for painting. Telling you, this is why, guys. I went from painting 7 nights a week to about 4, and now I'm down to like, this is the only night I've spent this week doing any sort of painting. So, and you can see it's we're starting to see some interruptions here. But hey, you know what? I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. And I mean that, you know, there's when you have kids, the volume on everything else, the importance on everything else in your life goes way, way down. And it's awesome. It's awesome. I can't really explain it. And this is, trust me, this is coming from somebody that spent a portion of his adult life not wanting to have kids. And I don't try to say that. I don't say that in any attempt to convince any of you guys who might be viewing this and who don't have kids to take the leap. I'm just sharing it because it's a particular insight that I came across, that, you know, everybody in my life who had kids was telling me that, you know, this has been their experience, and so it's been my experience too. So I would feel kind of remiss not to say that, hey, you know, especially for those guys that encouraged me to say, hey, you know, you were right. This is really cool, and I'm super, super happy. So right now I'm just sort of just painting, you know, putting a little more contrast into the sword, which is honestly one of the weirdest things for this model to have, is a big long sword, considering the, you know, Harmony 2 is really about buffing and supporting. I mean, she has a ranged heal, you know. She's not this you know, badass scimitar wielding character so much, or at least she doesn't, her rules aren't set up that way in season 2. But it does make for a very cool looking model, I won't lie about that. What I do need to do though is I do need to soften that up a little bit. So I'll just I'll find a way to do that. Soften up this edge a little bit. There we go. Okay. All right. Next thing we're going to do, we're going to do that. I was talking about doing a top level highlight on the blue blouse, and we can still do that. There we go. And the reason why we can do this top level highlight is because I'm going to fix this with a wash. All right. So I don't use washes on skin much anymore, but I still use them on like a lot of other parts on the model, as you'll see here. I'm just painting in, taking that white, it's not quite white, but just putting in a couple of highlights here. Okay, all right, just putting a little bit there. Okay. All right. Oh, or a weird. Wonder if that was a message to do something. No, it wasn't. Okay. So now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to shade the brown a little bit. So I'm going to take this Agrex Earth Shade and we're going to shade up the boots and the belts. Okay. And the handle on the sword. It's real simple stuff. Really just kind of run the wash over it, let it do its thing. And that's just going to give the brown some depth. And there you go. Okay. Alright, now to get back to the armor. So now that we have the azure down, we're going to move up to the glacier blue. And this we might build up a little more slowly. Okay, so I'm going to take some glacier blue, and a little bit of glazed medium to it. And we're going to start to highlight the major parts of the armor with this glacier blue glaze. And that'll keep a lot of the edges soft, and the glacier blue will start to look like more like a white, right? Oh, we're gonna get in real close here. Now, you might be a little concerned about getting the glacier blue in the runes, the cracks for the runes, and losing that detail. That's a legit concern if you're painting too thickly. If your layers are too thick. How about that? Let me speak English properly here. Yeah, if your layers are too thick, that can be a concern. So we are gonna, part of the reason why we're doing a glaze is because we know that it will not go on that thick. Also, allows us to correct mistakes like the one I just made. Right? Because I'm getting that glaze in her hair. So I'm going to take some of this orange that I painted her hair with. We're just going to put that right back in there. Okay, there we go. Let's get back to our glaze. So again, it's great that we can skip those gaps, but realistically, with detail this fine, you're not going to be able to do that with any, not unless you really get in and hand pick this all out. Or I guess you could dry brush it to try to avoid the gaps, but don't even think about it in terms of that. Think of that like I'm painting the shoulder pad here. I'm going to think about it in terms of the shape, the general shape of the object, and where my base coat needs to go. Not so much, trying to avoid that just the runes, because that's a losing endeavor. Okay. But I am, I will say, this is the first guild model that I've painted in probably a month or so, and I'm really enjoying it. It doesn't hurt that it's a Mason model, and one that I was been particularly anxious for the better part of a year. But yeah, really enjoying painting this model. It's a very, very fun sculpt. What I like about this model, and what can be said actually about many Guild Ball models, is the fact that you can actually use this for a lot more than just Guild Ball, right? Like this model, this could be a Frostgrave model. You could use this for all kinds of fantasy games. If I knew nothing about Guild Ball and somebody showed me this and said, hey, this is one of the new Helldorado models, I would have totally believed you. Not that there are any. The part that would be unbelievable would be that there are new Helldorado models. So yeah. Anyway. Okay. So we're just gonna give it a couple of passes and give it that some time to dry. All right. So while that's drying, we're gonna paint in the moss that's on the base of the model. So I need a suitable green to do this in. And I buy a lot of greens because I can't ever seem to find the green that I want especially when I'm looking, for my greens. But I always think about it, like when I'm like looking through paints, I'm like, I need a good green. I need a military green, or I need an olive green. And they usually just don't pan out because they're the greens that I buy. A lot of times they're just all resin and not a whole lot of good flat pigment to them. So I'm gonna put this brown violet on. Okay, but I'm not gonna thin it a whole lot. Just enough to kind of get it on there. Okay. Just enough thinning to be able to paint it onto the base and be happy with it. All right? So it's like there's like there's a bit of moss on this base. This is a secret weapon flagstone base. And unfortunately, it doesn't match the rest of my Masons team, except for Flint. So these two this model and Flint will have the same type of base, but my other Masons do not have. They have a different basing scheme altogether, which is almost more like a marble style base. Okay, so we got that going. The other thing we can do while we're waiting for that glaze to dry is we can put a little bit of blue wash a little bit of blue wash onto the model's tank top. that will blend together, you know, the whole top. If I can find it. I thought I had one of the larger bottles of the Drakenhof Nightshade, but perhaps not. It's weird. Could have sworn I bought a large bottle of that, and I just can't seem to find it. No Drakenhof Nightshade. Alright. Well, let's just do the other thing. Right? Nobody needs that. So if I don't have Drakenhof Nightshade, I'm gonna need that later. I better find my blue wash. And actually should have a couple of different types of blue wash available to me. Should have Vallejo blue wash and Army Painter blue wash. There we go. Here's the Army Painter blue tone. Right? So we'll use some of this. And we'll mix a little bit of water into that. Because I don't really need too much of this blue tone. I'm really just kind of using it to tint a little bit and soften up the work I did. Actually, before I even do that, what I really need to do is get a little more white back on this palette, because we're gonna do like a targeted highlight here. Okay, so do that. Just my cat's decided he thinks he should be playing with toys and crying at daddy. So if it's not the little boy, okay, I'm gonna have to fix that little cat. Jeebus. Alright, so I'm gonna take my little dry brush again, and we're just gonna strategically place some of this white down on the model. And this is an effort to get that armor to look more white than blue. Glacier Blue pretty much gets you there. Glacier Blue over Azure gives you that nice cool blue look. But we're throwing in white to give us legitimate highlight. Okay. Okay. And then finally, since I have the white out, let's give the top one real quick white highlight. Right? There we go. Now it's like way over the top. That's what we clean up with the blue wash to get that top back down to like almost more of a navy color. And that's what we're doing, like a navy color that's got good depth to it and good highlighting, right? And you can see, like here, I just started to put it on. You can see what it's doing. It's blending everything together, and then it's giving me all the shadow I I need for the blue top. Okay. There we go. Yeah, that's looking good. Okay. Alright. Believe it or not, we are nearly done with the model. Okay, so now there's one final thing that needs to happen on the armor, and that is we have to get those runes in. And I go with blue runes, and so this is going to require some blue ink. And we're going to use blue ink for two reasons. One, really strong saturated color, obviously. And two, we're going to make this blue ink like thinner than water. Like the idea here is we want to make, shoot, if I can get it open. The idea here is we want it super thin, so that we're going to use the capillary action actually to get it to sit in those cracks correctly. So I'm going to take the ink and I'm just going to add thinner medium directly to it. And then we're going to mix that up. And the idea here is we've got to make this the thinnest, absolute thinnest ink possible. Okay, and then I'm going to add a little bit of water to that to make it even thinner. There we go. So now this stuff should be so thin that really what I should be able to do is take my superfine brush, tap the edge of it, draw up some super thin blue ink, and then I should be able to just sort of, if I can get the tip to behave, should just be able to place it over the rune and let it fill, and let the capillary action fill the runes, right? Okay. Then what I can do is take the flat edge of the brush and pick up the excess. Since you want it to be dry. There, right? Pick up the excess there. And same here. So that didn't work so well on the headband, but it worked out great there on the shoulder pad. And it's working out okay on the next piece of armor below. Okay. And I'm going to use it here on this armor. Yeah, this is doing what we hope it does. Just kind of give a rune, you know, just kind of fill in those detail for the rune, just like that. Okay. Yeah, this is the way I do that blue Mason's armor. Okay. So now that that's done, now all you have to do to finish the armor is you just have to highlight it with white in the areas that you need to bring back to white. So on the headband, did they call this? This isn't called a headband. What do they call this? Whatever this thing is. Basically the hair clip. Here we go. Okay. And some more white here. Okay. Yeah, this model is nearly done. Really basic paint job, but you know, gets the point across. And looks pretty good, I'd say. You know, fairly good on the table. Okay, here we go. I forgot to actually highlight the base with some of this white, so I'm just going to quickly do that. Just a little bit, just to give it a little bit of interest down here. Right? Just to give it a little bit of wear. Right? There we go. But yeah, I mean, she's pretty much done. I can come back and I can paint individual fingers into the gloves. Not that important. And do little things, but yeah, I'm gonna be happy with her pretty much. Let's hit the moss with some Earthshade, and then let's just paint the base and be done with the one model. And then you know, maybe we can paint up the the armadillo as well. Okay, let's get some black. That is, if I can find black. Here we go. Alright. Gonna put black off to one little corner there. thoroughly enjoyed painting this miniature. You know, it's got good, I like it. It's got good style. The sword is a little weird, but I really like the detail on the face. And I like a lot of other. I like the detail of the face. The armor's great. The stance is okay, but it's just good. I like the, you know, I don't know. I just like where that. I like where that took me. Okay. So now let's just paint. Oh wait, what am I doing? What am I doing? Oops. I'm gonna just spread that out because that's wrong. We don't want to. I don't want the base, the lip of the base to be black. That's all my other models. That's how long it's been since I painted Guild Ball models. So I forgot. They don't. My Guild Ball models don't have black bases. Only the game ball has a black base or a gold token, but not the players. Players have a dark blue-gray base, which I believe I would make by mixing. I believe I mixed medium blue with black gray, and that's how I got it, right? So let's make that. There's black gray. It's a medium blue. And it's nearly a 1-to-1 ratio. You just kind of mix that up to get the color you want. I think I need a little more medium blue. It's a little too gray. Like you can just kind of eyeball it and see. There we go. There we go. That's better. Just needs a little bit of water. Okay. Thought I had a pre-mixed blue that I used, but I guess not. Guess it was this color. Doesn't seem like it has enough blue in it. Now what do I know anymore? I don't even remember. Yeah, that's a little too gray. Let's throw some more blue in it. No, that's just becoming more gray-blue. It's got to be more like this color. See how jacked up I am right now? Can't even get the color right. That actually looks correct with that. That actually looks correct. There we go. That looks much better. Because the mason color I use is a little more like navy color. So that's actually, yeah, that's going to work out great. I still don't think it's going to match 100%, but that's what I get for custom mixing that blue. I bet I will find the actual blue I used, because I think it's just a standard color. I tried to make all the Guild Ball bases a single color that's not blended with anything. Hear my little guy crying. That's good timing then. This, she's done, right? Hello. We sure do.
American Godzilla.
They're all right there.
Where's American Godzilla? Let's start with
I'll
this.
go find American Godzilla.
We'll start with this.
Hey, back again. How you liking season 3? I haven't haven't played a game of it yet. I'm That's what I'm doing Sunday. I have all the cards, downloaded all the cards, and I read over the rules, but I haven't actually played it yet. So I'm excited. We'll see what happens on Sunday. But yeah, so she's done. So she looks. I think she looks great. She was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to paint. It's been a while, like I said, since I was able to sit down and paint something. But since I'm out here, I might as well get started on this model. And I'll be honest with you, I have no idea how I intend to paint this guy. Um, I'm gonna need like that khaki gray, I think, and I'm gonna like a khaki gray, um, like a khaki gray glaze will be most. I'm envisioning that as most of this model. Um, have the rules changed significantly? No. That's the nice thing about Guild Ball is that they'll go in and change things, but the general consensus amongst the players and um, the players and the developers is that we're all pretty, we're all fundamentally happy with how Guild Ball plays. Um, the tweaks have been relatively minor across the board. Um, like for example, season 3, really the only big things I can think of are things like when if you lose first turn, you automatically get, if you're going second, you automatically get 1 momentum at the start of the turn. Essentially, you get the home crowd card from season 2, and it's just always active. That's a great change because that they needed to balance how important it was to get turn. So the decision to stockpile momentum and sacrifice a turn just to guarantee that you get the following turn is much more of a decision now than it was before. The other some of the other major changes are would be in tournaments, organized play, you can only put one. If you're a non-union player, you can only put one union uh, player on your roster, which is great. I think that's great because it allows so that people that want to play the fun union teams, like if you took an alchemist team, you took Midas and you put a bunch of fun union with him, which I've heard that people like to play. You can still do that, but if you're talking tournament, you're not gonna, you can't spam this like amazing all-star team of gutter and mist and decimate on teams that can field two of those three. And I think there are some teams that can actually field, non-union teams that can field two of those three models. For example, the Masons can field Mist and Decimate, which is crazy. They're both allowable. They're both hireable into the Masons, but in season 3, you can't stick both of them on your tournament roster, and I think that's a really important change. So those are the two biggies that I can think of. There are some other like tweaks and things that were done, but I can't really think of them right now. Trying to fix this little blade on ooh, on Wrecker. It's that little blade there. It's not That's not where that needs to be. It needs to be pointing up more the way the one on the other side is, and it's just not quite doing that. So yeah, Mortician Union team, right, right. Obulus basically with an all-star team. I think that team can take um, Morticians can take Mist. I don't remember if they can take Gutter. I don't think so, but they can take Mist. They can take Rage. You can build a really strong team, and then obviously Avarice and Greed, just a strong tournament union player that just about everybody in the upper echelons of competitive Guild Ball were taking. Um, well, they nerfed Avarice and Greed so that you don't net an additional activation. You just get a simultaneous activation of two models, and that's a really big change because that additional activation um, can really throw a lot of strength on the player that decided to field Avarice and Greed versus a player that decided not to. And then even when you think about the Mason's ability um, to reactivate a model, uh, you could do a crazy combination with the Masons where um, Avarice and Greed, and um, you have Avarice and Greed, you have Decimate, and you have Honor on the same team. So you could reactivate a model. You could cause that model to make a jog at the end of its activation, and you get Avarice and Greed, which would be another activation. So a 6 model team would have access to 8 activations and an additional jog. That's wild. By putting that particular roster together, that's pretty wild. I mean, it sounds wild in theory. I think that team has too many holes if you were to do that personally, but it is something you could potentially abuse. You could abuse the Mason's ability to extend activation, which is no small, that is no small advantage. Um, the way that they did our Avarice and Greed and Union this season means that you get a slight advantage, and especially if you're a Mason player, but it's not as game bending as it was in previous seasons. So overall, I'm excited to try season 3. I have a bunch of cards to laminate and then recut, which is going to be kind of a pain. I'd love to have season 3 updated on the Guild Ball Scrum, the GB Scrum app, but I don't see that happening anytime soon. Um, but yeah, I really like the tweaks that they've made. Um, the Midas tweaks in particular, super happy about, and I'm really leaning towards running a Midas led Alchemist team because he plays the way I felt he should play. Reading his fluff in season 1. Engineers, right? Engineers did get, particularly ballista led engineers, got a lot better. Um, they it's not just a sit around and straight attrition game. They have some really fun ball movement shenanigans now, and they have they have something that is, instead of Ballista's minefield legendary, he now has access to like a small version of minefield that he can activate each turn. That real it only the good news is it only activates once on a model, but he can do it each turn. So he does end up with a lot of so he ends up with more consistent, we'll say, more consistent board control than previously. So that was the other team that's calling to me. Is I've always wanted to play engineers, and I tried out the rules for Pinvice. It was okay. It didn't turn out to be as fun as I was hoping it would be. Um, but yeah, the changes to Ballista sound really, really fun. So I'm excited. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that I'm really looking forward to. And I'm painting the armadillo right now because they did nerf marbles a bit. And again, I was saying this in the previous portion that I feel that was deserved. Although I took advantage of it a lot. But I do agree that should have been toned way down. Wow, I guess this will be the running of the mechanical players. Yeah, possibly, right? But yeah, I mean, for the most part, I think I don't disagree with any change that I've seen so far in Season 3. I really love what they did to Season 1 Harmony. That was just a great improvement there. For Obulus, he did see a little bit of a nerf, but it was not nearly as bad or as deep as anybody was expecting. These are things that on the surface don't seem like big changes for Obulus, but what they do is they definitely remove the the crazy things that he was able to do at the top tier from previous seasons. I did feel like he was one of the top mascots in Season 1. Yeah, for me, a lot of people were saying, Marble's probably the best mascot in Season 1. And then, a lot of people, Coin, obviously. I consider, and looking at them now, I still consider Coin, post Marble's nerf, arguably the best mascot currently. So, but anyways, back to Obulus for a minute. So they did change his influence from max 8 to 7. That's important because that helps take 2 puppet masters away. They also removed the bit of puppet master where if you successfully cast it, that you get 1 influence back, making it essentially a 3 influence. I'm sorry, yeah, a 3 influence ability. So they nerfed that, which was great, and they nerfed his max influence so that you cannot do Puppet Master now twice in a turn. The other things that they nerfed on Obulus is, I believe, wait, so yeah, they didn't mess with his reach at all. They did mess with Puppet Master. They did mess with Max Influence. And there was another change on him. But bottom line is, like, they made it so that you can't Puppet Master twice. And that, Obulus isn't too perfect at everything. He still has all that slippery maneuvering he had. That's where most of us were thinking Steamforged was gonna inflict their nerf. Was I thought, my money was on Steamforged would reduce his reach from 2 to 1, because that is a huge advantage when you have unpredictable movement from the shadows. You've got I want to say you've got a momentous dodge on 1. You have a character that is incredibly slippery, like painfully slippery, especially against new players that don't know how to get around unpredictable movement. It was bad enough when guys like Midas had unpredictable movement, and those guys are only 1-inch reach. And Brisket still has unpredictable movement. And I think Grayscales does too. I think he retained his. But still, even with all of that, Obulus kept all of that stuff. So he's still super hard to hit. But he can't Puppet Master twice. He can still do a lot of the same stuff, though. I want to say they nerfed his legendary. I don't know. What am I doing? I have the whole stack of cards in front of me. I can flip right to Obulus. What did I do with it? Alright, there's Scalpel, so I know I'm close to Obulus. By the way, the Season 2 players, they did not change really at all. Okay, so Obulus. Okay, 4-6 move. Tack. Oh yeah, he went from Tack 6 to Tack 5. They did not change the playbook really. So Tack 6 to Tack 5. That's nice because that makes it much harder for him to regularly hit the momentous 2 damage that's out on the 3 column. But he still has that slipperiness. He still has that 1-inch dodge momentous on 1. He still has a 2-inch dodge on 2. So that counterattack with Obulus is still super important. So here's the crazy thing is, with Obulus is you still have unpredictable movement. You still have you still have Shadow-like. You still have that 2-inch dodge on 2 hits on a counterattack. So he is still super hard to pin down, but he's less effective. He doesn't hit as much. He can't Puppet Master more than once, and I think those were big things. Otherwise, his playstyle is still the same. It's just if you really know how to abuse Obulus, then these changes are huge for you. If you I was telling some of the guys that are newer Morticians players, I'm telling them that they may not see any difference at all because they just weren't, they haven't been playing Obulus long enough to know how to abuse him the way that the really really experienced and high skilled players knew how to do. Where's my little wrecker? He's coming along. It looks like he's all one color the way I'm painting him. Okay. And then while we're on this, let's go ahead and do the Azure. Actually, let's do let's see. Yeah, that helps a lot as an opponent, though. Cosset was scary to read through. Oh, I haven't really. I think they did change Cosset, right? I think they buffed Cosset. She was kind of an odd one anyway. Here's the thing, too. I mean, these are minor, what I consider to be minor changes in the grand scope of things, but they made it so that the teams are actually, in my opinion, they're actually more interesting to play now because you feel like you feel like they've taken the parts that you like least about teams and players and made them way more interesting. So, see, I don't really know enough about Cosset to know what they changed. I know she had Crazy. I know she had Furious. I know she had Assist Dirge. I don't recall that she had Lure. But I don't know. They're very on par, yeah. So I'm still trying to decide, honestly, if next season if I'm going Brewers or if I'm going Alchemists or if I'm going Brewers, Alchemists, or Engineers. Because all of those teams right now seem really interesting to me. But I'm telling you right now, I think I'm leaning really heavily towards Alchemist because Midas just seems so much cooler now. Like his playstyle seems really cool. But we'll see. The downside to going Alchemist is that Mark, who is my most regular Guild Ball opponent, he is also going Alchemist, but he's going Smoke Alchemists. So, I mean, I could go Midas Alchemist and just kind of break them out against anybody unless Mark is playing Alchemists, which is fine because we both have multiple teams. So that's not a bad thought. I still have my Masons. I still have my Union. Although I'm not this next season. I'm not that interested in playing Union. I'm gonna keep the team because you have to keep them. They're Union. You can't. It doesn't make sense to get rid of a Union team ever. So I'm going to keep them, but I'm going to want to think about whether or not I even end up playing the Union or fielding them as a whole team in anything other than getting bored of the other two teams. So yeah, so my idea is I want to have two teams that I play, and if Union is one of the two main teams, it doesn't matter. Then I guess I would still have two main teams and a fallback team, just kind of a like a JV team that I play. And this past season, it was obviously my two main teams were Masons and Union. And so moving forward, it's going to be Masons and something else for season 3. It's probably not going to be Union. I mean, Catalyst needs more play. Yeah, they even made regular Catalyst seem like interesting. Like you might want to play him. But if I'm looking at if I were to go with a Midas led Alchemist team, then I'm gonna go. I'm probably gonna try to keep it fairly old school. Midas, Calculus, Vitriol. Um, I might. Oh, dude, I should totally. Hold on. Let me get this Azure color down, and then we should look at. We should look at what's his name. The fire guy. We should look at him. The fire guy. How come I can't? I can't get his name on my tongue right now. Um, the one that nobody plays. That guy. We gotta get that guy in front of us and see if they buffed him. I hope they did, because he and Catalyst are like they were getting thrown off the team all the time. Yeah, don't worry. I'll get the card out. If you can recall it before I get the card out, then awesome. But we know who I'm talking about. The guy comes in the starter box with the fire coming out of his hands. Mercury. Mercury. That's right. So I remembered before we had to break out the card. Yeah, I want to look at Mercury stats, and we'll see if he's actually worth taking. I hope so, because I think he's kind of a cool model. He has cool fluff. And I like the idea of the 3-player starter boxes, even though they're probably going away. I like the idea of buffing those 3 players that are in the 3-player starter boxes to where, they play like the Union starting 3. The Union starting 3 is crazy. Crazy strong. Still crazy strong, in my opinion. They nerfed Blackheart, and they nerfed Gutter, but I still consider those 3 to be very strong. Oh man, the Gutter tiers, the guys that lean so heavily on Gutter, which I think is kind of lame, honestly. And I'm going to be a little judgmental here. But a lot of people know, Gutter she's a self-contained entity. She's super efficient at generating damage and momentum, and she had chain grab, and she had she has the ability to heal herself by causing damage. Like she has 2-inch reach. She has 2-inch reach. She has scything blow. Like that's a lot. That's a lot on one model, especially a non-captain model. So to sit there and tell me, oh no, I can't believe they nerfed her. That sucks. She's she's not overpowered. It's the question isn't. I don't look at it in terms of her being overpowered. It's about she's just too damn useful. Okay, she's useful all the time on any team that can hire her. That's, to me, that should be a big red flag. Of course you want the models to be good. You want, it would be good to have a Decimate out there that can do. Decimate can also do a lot of cool things, but Decimate can do everything. Decimate still has 1-inch melee. Decimate doesn't have a chain grab. Doesn't have isn't such a great control piece. Decimate can generate momentum and damage, but not can't do the damage part as well as Gutter. And again, doesn't have the chain grab or the self heal. I should point out they had the same kick. So my point with Gutter is I feel like she's a crutch. I feel like Season 1, Season 2 Gutter is a crutch that You can just constantly lean on her. She's always reliable. But, I do see the other side of that argument too. Like, okay, well, if everybody knows that, then she's also prime target to kill. Also true. But let's also not forget, defense 4-1, and she gets to heal herself as she's beating you down, right? What other model has that without having to activate, something like sadism? Nobody has that. She was, bottom line, I feel like she was too strong. I feel like she was too useful. Not broken, not overpowered, just too useful compared to the other options. And that's why I felt like the nerf was justified. Anyways, let's let this dry for a sec. And let's look at Mercury. I have not looked at Midas. Is so damn cool now, though. For real. Man. Telling you. Alchemist kind of calling me kind of strong. Vitriol. There he is. Mercury. Okay. Let's have a look. Mercury. Okay. 5-8 move, tack 4. I think he was always tack 4. 4-6 kick. 4-6? I think that's new. I don't think he was a 4-6. I think it was a 3-6, right? Def 4, arm 1, influence 2-4. So I think he was 1-4 before with tactical advice. No. He was 2-4 before with tactical advice. All right. His traits are Burning Spirit. Nothing changes there. Well, actually, it does change a little bit. No, it's the same. Tactical Advice Flask. Yep. Gains +1 influence. Ooh. Wait, hold on. Yikesers. So, +0, +1 influence. That sucks. So, he doesn't gain an influence, he just gains a capacity for influence. So you could throw 5 influence on Mercury. Why would you want to throw 5 influence on Mercury? Is it worth it? If you look at his playbook, I don't see anything special there other than it's fairly consistent. 2 damage on 2 is decent, but it's not momentous. And you get a 1, the 1 momentous with a dodge. That's kind of cool. I'm always looking at column 2. That to me, that tells me what the piece is reliably doing on its attack. Okay. Fire Blast, cost 2, 8-inch range. It's an AoE 3. You suffer 2 damage, and the burning condition. Yeah, that seems the same. Flame Jet, same thing. Cost 2, 6-inch range. Target enemy model suffers 3 damage and the burning condition. So that's a ranged 6 attack. I still don't see anything here that is terribly compelling as far as taking Mercury. The passing out burning is great. Maybe what I suspect that they're doing is, yeah, like you said, set up for Catalyst. Also helps Venom. So maybe that's kind of where they're working. So I don't know. He's okay. 4-6 kick is kind of rad, but do I really want him to be the guy doing that? When I have Vitriol on the team, when I have access to Mist, when I have Midas, new Midas, yeah, not so much. But that does, the 4-6 does give him, some fun ball play. I don't know, skeptical. I'm not that impressed. I'm tough to please, all right? do a little Iraqi sand. I will say they were smart building this team, though. You mean the Alchemist team? How so? I mean, I'm not going to disagree with you. I just want to hear your reasoning. And the other color I chose, the armadillo, wasn't quite as striking. It's okay. I think I got this figured out. Because for you to put a bunch of status effects on a model, then Catalyst being the explosion in the end, yeah. But and that's how they were designed. I feel like the design attempt was to try to get you to play that way, which is really cool. And like season one games amongst noobs would go that way, which was great. But obviously, once you kind of figure out what Midas does, and you start to look at the team differently with experienced eyes, you realize the potential for the other playstyle is more rewarding from a victory standpoint, whatever that means, right? But yeah, I don't know. Alchemists are just great. I love Vitriol. One of my favorite miniatures in the entire range. Also, really love Calculus. Love that mini. And then Midas, just his new playstyle, has me. So I don't know. I can't decide. I really don't know. If I'm going that way. Also, I really like the Brewers because I played them briefly last season when I painted up a team and put it on eBay. I had a lot of fun just playing Brewers. It's a fun team to play. Um, so I'm, sure I'll consider them. Oh man. Did I just... Okay. Let's see. I'm still waffling. I have all my fish almost all done. I own starter box of Brewers, 3 Alchemists, though I do want to paint up Masons for a reason. Yeah, I'm biased. I love my Masons. I absolutely love this team. For me, I picked the team initially based on just sculpts. I was like, oh, cool. They have Honor. That's a great sculpt, the female captain. And they have the other sculpts I really liked. I like Tower. I don't use him much. I thought I would like Harmony based on the art, and I was dead wrong about that. But also really liked Marbles. So there was stuff. There's stuff that I really liked about Masons aesthetically, and then I found out they were the Flex faction, and I was like, that sucks, because the Flex faction is is fairly boring most of the time. In a lot of the other games I play, like, oh, they're the versatile faction, right? You think like Ultramarines, like, so yeah, you can do lots of things, but they're super boring. They don't have any flavor. And then come to find out, the Mason's playstyle is flexible, but it has lots of flavor to it. Uh, Plus, it's the closest to a true football team in sculpts. Masons? Yeah, I would totally agree with that. You have Flint, which is like maybe the only guy out there that looks like he's playing football. That's, you know, honestly, that was one of the reasons why I didn't back the Kickstarter for Guild Ball. Was they're like, oh yeah, hey Octave, come check out this cool Guild Ball, this cool game called Guild Ball, and heard a lot about it. I watched the intro videos. I'm like, hey, these guys seem like they really know what they're doing. And I saw the sculpts, and I saw that the sculpts had weapons, and that immediately turned me off. And the reason why it turned me off is, I got real defensive about Blood Bowl when Chaos Ball came out, and I was like, what is this Chaos Ball? And I'm like, they have really cool teams. Like, they have ninjas, they have pirates, they have steampunk. I'm like, okay, that's all pretty dang cool when it comes down to it. But, then I started to watch some of the gameplay for Chaos Ball, and two things immediately came to alarmed me. One, they really only have 2 sculpts per team. That's just awful. No, that's terrible. Um, Two, uh, a lot of the game to me looked like just kind of standing around a square and punching each other. So when I saw weapons in Guild Ball, it was like I saw that, and I figured this is going to be a much bashier game, and I was like, yeah, you guys are missing the point. Blood Bowl is cool because um, you can play super bashy, and you can play super edge style. You can sport ball it, right? Chaos Ball does not really look like it offers you that type of experience based on the play stuff that I'd seen. So Chaos Ball kind of put me defensive about Blood Bowl. Then you had Dread Ball that came out, and yeah, granted, everybody in Dread Ball looks like they are playing a sport because you don't have weapons, and you have a lot of the teams that look like sports teams. My big hang up with Dread Ball is purely aesthetic and thematic. I don't like generic sci-fi themes. I like anime themes if we're talking sci-fi. Um, and I just did not like the sculpts, and I did not, I don't need to play orcs or X and you know Veermen like that. Just kind of turned me off big time. Sculpts were a little weird. Um, Played the game. The game seemed okay. Seemed like, yeah, okay, that can kind of be fun. Never really got me. So Dreadball, Dreadball, I stayed out of. Um, and again, I passed up on Guild Ball because all this was going on, and then Guild Ball starts to poke its head out, and I'm like, no, not no, no. I don't want to play a bashy game that's pretending to be a sports game because, not that's my whole judgment based on seeing the weapons. I was like, this person has like 2 swords, and that person has hammers, and this person, you know, looks like she's throwing a grenade or something. And I'm like, that's not sport, people, not sport. Um, and then obviously that ended up being the biggest thing I regret not backing for that year was Guild Ball. Still regret it to this day. I would say, I would argue, because of how much I love Guild Ball, that it may be the most significant thing that I've skipped, period, for Kickstarter. Ever in my history of backing Kickstarters. Probably the biggest miss of all time for me. So for this year, it was Conan. And I don't know, did Kingdom Death, did that Kickstarter end yet? Because man, that still tempted. Kingdom Death still has me looking over there. Yeah, any news on Kingdom Death? Is it still open? Because I'll be honest with you, I'm looking at my Christmas bonus right now, going. But the reality is, I have two kids now. I have two kids is so much harder than one kid. The fact that I can sit here and paint right now, I'll be honest, it's a small miracle. But some people, they have one kid, and the one kid is tough for them, or maybe they have people just have different circumstances, and so one of my friends, he has one kid, and the demands for the one kid has basically ended his public gaming life. My one kid by himself is he wasn't too bad. I had actually considered. I thought my gaming career was over with the one kid, and I think I mentioned on this channel several times. I'm like, oh, it was nice knowing you guys. Thank you for watching. You probably won't see me for a while. I was like throwing in the towel at the one kid, but no, it turned out he was just a really easy kid. In fact, so easy that we're like, hey, we'll do another one. And yeah, my new kid, he's just as easy as the first one. The problem is that logistically, it's still really hard. You have two kids in very early developmental stages that have very, very different needs, and I've got to be there with my wife. I can't. With the one kid, it's like, yeah, we can trade off. She can take him, I can take him. We can totally do that. We can still have our individual time when we want our individual time. With two kids, no, you have a kid with you pretty much all the time. So, but right now it's kind of a lucky break. It's late at night. My son, 3-year-old, still doesn't want to sleep right now, but my wife is up, and I think she's just doing me a solid because I did have such a rough week at work, and I love her for that, and that's fantastic. But I shouldn't abuse that. I shouldn't do this. I should figure out how I'm going to do streams, because I still want to do streams. In fact, I want to do gaming streams, because if I can't leave the house, I can build a gaming table here and do gaming streams. But the problem is going to be like, at what time in the evening can I do that? Trying to get my son to go to sleep early is key to that. And right now, it doesn't look like that's much of a possibility. So let's see. Yeah, it's one of those deals where I'm trying to get what I want done put aside before I have to settle down and get married and all that jazz. Yeah, yeah. Uh, right. I totally hear you. I you know I got married later in life. And we had kids later in life. I didn't want either at one point. You know, in my late 20s, I didn't want either. either marriage or kids, and eventually, you know, that's when they get you. So when you're like, no, I'm super happy, don't need any of those things, and it's like somebody's listening. Usually your wife to be, like she gets like a signal from somebody. Somebody sends out a memo. Hey, this guy thinks he's totally cool without anybody, without any responsibilities. Then you get married, and then you have kids. You were also laughing about this whole idea of expendable income. Like we were like, yeah, you remember when that was a thing? We could go have, as my wife and I, after we first got married. Oh man, we go out and have dinner every night because we got no kids. We both have good jobs, and that's what you did. And she'd buy clothes and shoes, and spend hundreds of dollars there. I would spend that and more on gaming. I mean, not just, and I'm not just talking like not just talking miniatures themselves. I'm talking like going to conventions, running conventions, buying terrain for tournaments and several players, and um, you know, basically funding a club. You could do that. We had disposable income. You could just do that. That's what, and we didn't even really even I don't know. We didn't even really question each other's like purchases or spending habits or anything. We're like, yeah, we're good. We got our money. Just we'll just enjoy it. And that that lasted for a while. And then we kid. Then when the first kid came, things got a little bit tighter for a little bit. But then she went back to work. We paid for a sitter. I did. That's really where I started to um, uh, put press the pedal down on the commission painting, because commission painting allowed us to keep our standard of living, to keep that whole disposable income, and I paid for the childcare painting, believe it or not. Uh, and I also, when we bought this house, a lot of the initial expenditures, the big checks that you write up front in good faith, the good faith check and all that stuff, that came from commission painting. So, there is at least some point to doing this kind of stuff. But yeah, second kid comes along, bam. This whole concept of disposable income basically gone. But we're doing okay. My wife is she's still off work right now because she's still on maternity leave. So money's a bit tight, um, but we're gonna be okay because we've been, I don't know, we're we're being better about spending. I'm still keeping with my commission stuff. I'm still keeping pretty well in the black, and you know being smart about what I do purchase and what I do back. Um, that Kingdom Death, man, that's that's tough. I'm just looking at my Christmas bonus, going, huh? Really, I could totally pull the trigger on that thing, but would it be stupid? Would that come back and bite me later on when my wife has been off work 6 months or whatever, and I'm paying all the bills myself? Um, I don't know. Should I just be wiser? Can we afford for and then the other point I've been thinking of about is, man, like my gaming time really has diminished. It's down to like 2 or 3 times a month now. That still seems like a lot. It does, because I know a lot of guys that aren't married and have careers and two kids that can't seem to string together 3 occasions a month to game. But I can still do it, which is a little wild. But you know, what's the point in buying something like Kingdom Death if I don't really, you know, realistically, I'm not going to get that much opportunity to play it, is what I'm saying. What did I do with that wash? Where's that blue wash? I've been just painting this thing and rambling and not talking about what I'm doing, but I don't think it matters, does it? You can just see what I'm doing. I had to metaphorically shoot myself in the foot not to touch Dark Souls. Yeah, well, for me it was easy not to touch Dark Souls because because my baby was right around the corner. So it's like, yeah, we're gonna sit this one out. I figured there are enough Steamforged fans around me such that someone I knew would back it, and sure enough, someone I know backed it. But I don't think I will be seeing much of anybody who doesn't, you know, regularly come over my house to game. I just don't. I don't think that's going to be a thing, really. Oh, thanks. Yeah, I think he's looking pretty good. We'll yeah, we'll keep working on this guy. He's actually he's getting close to finished at this point. Oh, I do need to paint a little more white on the. I'm not really explaining anything, partly because what I'm doing, I basically did the same thing on Harmony, so. Oh, man, that white got really thin. There we go. Okay, that looks better. Now we'll take this charcoal and paint up the base. Looking forward to playing him because I think, and I'll even play him with honor. Just because his wrecking ball maneuver is kind of cool board control, and you don't need marbles that much anymore. Assist marbles is still amazing for honor. It's a way to get, you know, additional damage without having to take tower, but I don't know. You know, I wouldn't mind fielding her with the armadillo just to try. Let's paint the lip. Wait, did I? Making sure I painted everything. So for my Masons, I do run a specifically a Season 1 and a Season 2 roster, and I make sure that different players on each team. And it's kind of cool because it means that that if I wanted to, the two teams could play each other, you know, for supremacy of who really runs the Masons Guild. I might, you know, I'm half thinking of doing that. Just maybe streaming that and, you know, be playing a game against myself. But who cares? It would be kind of cool. Because I know all the players, you know, well enough that I could move through it pretty quick and we'd see. So anyways, season one team is you know Honor, Harmony, Flint, Brick, Mallet, and Marbles. Right, the basically the kickoff starter box. Their guild member, I'm sorry, their union member is Decimate, but that's the team, right? Those guys plus Decimate. That's the season one team. The season two team is Hammer, Vet Harmony, Tower, Chisel, Wrecker, and their union model is Snakeskin. So you can run two totally different rosters, and they play differently enough. I think it would be interesting. I may do that. We'll give him a few minutes to dry. But yeah, cool. So these two will be ready for Sunday, and I still have to laminate a bunch of stuff, but yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I need to do a little dry brush there on Wrecker's base once that cobblestone dries a little bit. Oh, thanks. Yeah, I I think I think they're really well matched too. I personally favor the season one roster because it has more players that I really enjoy. But let's not overlook what that season two roster I have can do. You have Hammer, obviously, who is amazing, pretty much with anybody. You've got Tower, who actually works really well on that team because he has that he has a knockback, and he has damage bonuses for models being knocked down. He Now he can actually give everybody sturdy, which is kind of cool. And he's just a good all around player. Plus he's rare, he's pretty influence efficient. Then you have Vet Harmony, also fairly influence efficient, but she can also keep someone like Hammer alive while he's just trying to mow through the opponent. And then you have Chisel, who would also benefit from Vet Harmony, and she benefits from Vet Harmony and Tower, as Tower now has Tooled Up. So Tower can give her Tooled Up, plus she can go crazy. So you have a pretty good burst potential there with healing. So the season two team becomes a much bashier team, and but they still have reasonably good kick. You have the ability to boost kick with Hammer Time. So all in all, I think it's a really good match. And I think if I'm playing the game on both sides, then it's going to come down to critical points of initiative and critical dice rolling and that kind of thing. Because I really do, I consider them to be really evenly matched. Cannot find my little cap for this brush. And then let's not forget how good the season one Mason team is. I mean, you got Mallet and Flint on the same team. You got Brick, who's basically controls such a big area of the board by himself. You know, Honor just so damn flexible as a captain. I still maintain that for me, for me anyways, that the season 1 roster is the stronger team. With me coaching both teams. I really should clarify that. I know some players that are just absolutely brilliant with Hammer, so to them, like, it's no contest. Like, they're gonna take Hammer every time because they know and appreciate the play style much more than the Honor play style. Let's see. I can see that. I'm still trying to find the proper blend for fish. Who are you running for captain for fish? Are you playing Sharkfish? Or are you playing Corsair? I'm partial to Sharkfish just because I don't know them well enough, and I I've gone up against Shark and played Shark in a couple games. So I know him at least well enough to know what he's capable of doing with a smarter, more experienced player than me. But yeah, I really like Shark. My favorite fish player is Grayscales. I just think Grayscales is amazing. He has so many like interesting tricks that he can do. Balls Gone is amazing. Unpredictable movement, 2-inch reach. He's pretty cool. I do think I think he should have got Football Legend or some version where he can buff kicks around him. It just makes sense that he and Mallet would both be Football Legend. He, Mallet, and Spigot, right? That those dudes would all have Football Legend. But from a balancing standpoint, they probably saw that as really excessive on to put that on Grayscales on a fish team. I can totally see that. The reason why they would not do that. Yeah, Grayscales is my favorite fish player. I also have a lot of respect for Sakana. Sakana is a really strong player. Yeah. I think Siren, it can be strong. I think a lot of people haven't quite figured her out yet. And Angel gets a lot of hate online. I mean, she's a prolific scorer, but I can see, like, she can, on that squad, she can be a bit of a liability. I don't know. Siren Kraken is strong, yeah. Kraken is he's reliable. But the big guys, the one thing, they're a liability for proccing. Your opponent proccing plays that they want. Angel and Salt, I know it is wrong. I don't think it's wrong. I don't think that's wrong at all. But, a lot of people who play fish are like, they love to hate on Angel. Everybody loves to hate on Salt. But, I think Season 3 Salt is viable. But Angel, I think she's actually pretty good. A pretty good piece. I think what you kind of hit it the nail on the head though when you're like, I'm not really sure what mix, what my fisherman's mix is. So I totally hear that because I do think she's a good player. But she's, you put her on with Shark, and she becomes like your second striker. But the problem with Angel is she doesn't seem to give you an additional role. And to have her on a team with Shark, who is an amazing striker, and then potentially with the other fish who are all who are all essentially de facto strikers when they need to be. That's where I see the why I think so many people hate on Angel, but I don't think it's justified. He switched Kraken for the Union. Oh, for Fangtooth. See, that's really kind of cool though, because you're taking advantage of whatever that rule is, the light-footed. And Fangtooth is pretty damn good. He really is. I mean, he gives Kraken is good, but Kraken doesn't give you the board control, the raw board control, and the efficiency that Fangtooth gives you. So I can totally see why he did that. That makes sense to me. You know, you run Fangtooth and a shark-led team. That's phenomenal because you have a tank essentially. But anyway, so yeah, so cool. I'm excited. I do have one more model to paint, but I don't know if he'll if he will if I'll get to do it before Sunday. I have Strongbox that's primed and ready to go, but I don't see how I'm gonna do that. I have to laminate all those cards. But anyways, it is super late at night. I need to go to bed because we're gonna get up tomorrow and go to the zoo. I'm stoked on that. So yeah. Anyways, thanks for tuning in, and I think you were here for the other, at least one other part, which is awesome. So that was basically, you know, Vet Harmony start to finish, and then we added Wrecker. So Wrecker, pretty simple paint job. I didn't really do anything fancy there, but it's a fun sculpt. So anyways, that's going to do it for this video. Want to thanks everybody for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one. Have a good night, guys.